Yo, what up, everybody? It's your boy, and I'm back bringing you a review for One Piece Chapter 686. Man, Oda stepped it up, yo. Oda stepped it up once again with a very beautiful ending. But before I talk about the ending, man, I have to talk about that one moment where Sanji just showed up and trolled Zoro, man. He just trolled him, right? He's running with the Navy guys, all running and jogging, panting, and all this stuff, right? And you get this moment where Sanji says, "Oh, look at Zoro. He's a cheeky bastard, that fellow is. Everyone, on my mark, make fun of him." That is so fucking hilarious, man. Like, I love the dynamic between Sanji and Zoro, right? Like, I can understand how you'll have some fans, they'll get so like, Zoro's awesome, Sanji's awesome, fuck Sanji, fuck Zoro. I can totally get it, but it's just so hilarious because they act like brothers, man. They act like brothers. Like, that's the one thing I like. Like, they look for ways to push buttons, man. And like, it really reminds me of like the relationship I have with my friend Sean. We're not actually brothers, right? But I'm closer to him than I am my own brother, and some of that's by choice. Because my brother has a relationship with my father, and we don't really get along. But like with Sean, like he's a Patriots fan, and I'm a Giants fan. And so I'll always troll him because we beat his team twice. And so, I'll just look for moments to push his buttons. And, I'll be the troll. I'll be the Sanji one. And sometimes I'll get a reaction out of him like that, where he's just like, I hope you slip and hit your head, you son of a bitch. Like, it's just all out of love. And, excuse me, what I found really cool about that is the fact that these guys, the dynamic, they just play off each other. And it's like, I really and genuinely feel as if Oda has a lot of fun when he writes these two characters. I really feel like that. I really feel like Oda has a lot of fun when he writes Zoro and Sanji. Now, let's talk about that ending, okay? Last chapter, it was Zoro who showed up and saved the crew, right? Or the people who were there. So Nico Robin and Robin and all that, right? Now, it's Tashigi. She shows up and saves her own crew. And it's really cool because it's just like, I feel like that's almost as if Zoro saying, not Zoro, but Oda saying, yeah, they're equals, but they're not. They have similarities. And I almost feel as if, again, I'm not fully moved off of the fact that I think that she could be Kuina, even though we've seen her hit her head or, get buried and all the other stuff, right? Well, she didn't get buried, but we saw her with the little napkin over her head, and she fell down and all that. And I know they say once you see the body with Oda, that's when somebody's dead. But I mean, the similarity is just so there, and it's so in your face. It's kind of hard not to come to that conclusion. And the fact that she's so skilled with the sword and she's using hockey, and because of what we know about hockey, even though she's a woman, that was Queen's hang up that as she got older, her body would get weaker. But like when you got hockey, you can make up for a lot of that stuff. I mean, Rayleigh's like super old, and yet Rayleigh's kicking ass. And so it just shit like that makes me think that she's still Kuina. Now, the reason why I say that is she shows up, she uses hockey, and she blocks Monet's attack. And it really looks as if we're going to have a Zoro and Tashigi versus Monet fight. Now, that's going to be really interesting to see. That's going to be really interesting because these two, they get along, but they don't. They get along, but they don't. And so that's going to be interesting to see how that goes, if it's going to be a 2-on-1 thing or if Zoro and Tashigi are going to clash because Tashigi is going to have that hang up of, hey, I'm a woman, but you don't treat me like anything less. And, Zoro, I mean, he still has that hang up of like, hey, she reminds me of Kuina, but this is going to be telling, right? It's going to be telling how Zoro interacts with her because depending on how he interacts, it tells you how far he's moved away from the whole thing with Kuina and what he really learned from that situation. Because I really feel like when we get done with One Piece as a series, and whenever that happens, right? I really feel as if how Zoro interacts with strong female characters is going to determine what he actually learned from that situation with Kuina. And I really feel as if she has a bit of a hold on him. What I mean by a bit of a hold is I think that those two were so close and their bond was so strong that Zoro won't ever fully move on from Kuina. And even if he gets the title of the greatest swordsman, I don't think he'll be happy. And that brings up the age old question, like, are people who are successful really happy? And are they grinding so much in order to make up for the fact that they're not happy? And so I say that to say it will be very interesting if when Zoro has to fight for the title of greatest swordsman, if he's actually fighting against Tashigi and he's fighting someone who reminds him of his childhood friend, the person who sent him down this rabbit hole. So I like the fact that they kind of jumped in like that. Now, we absolutely have to. We absolutely have to get into the whole conversation that goes on with Mocha and just the revelation because it's again, it's Oda showing us that a child's innocence is something you can't make up for. You can't make up for a child's innocence. And Mocha, as she's running and she's, verbally being attacked and threatened by the same kids that she shared a room with and, food and all the other stuff. And they've been on this island for a while. She's thinking back to when she first met them. And she's thinking back to the load of crap that Caesar told them, to the load of crap that Monet told them. And what's really interesting is, Oda is saying a lot about gender roles and dynamics because when Caesar starts crying and putting on crocodile tears, it makes the kids open up. He's putting on more of what would be considered feminine traits, if you will. He's acting more like a hurt parent. He's a father figure to these kids, showing vulnerability. Okay, they've been stripped from their families, and they would look to him for a source of strength, and yet he's opening up. Therefore, it lowers their guard. And then he has Monet right there, and she is drawn in a very loving and affectionate way, and it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit what's going on. And it's so telling that when Mocha says, even Miss Monet was lying, that says a lot because you can tell that actually hurt her. And it's the whole thing, a child's trust. Once you ruin a child's trust, that's it. You're not going to get it back. So I like what Oda did here. Like the more I keep reading into One Piece, the more I realize that, Oda has a very good understanding into the psyche of what it means to be human. And I've talked about this so much. Anytime you write or anytime you read something, you should always be asking yourself, what is the author trying to say about what it means to be human? What is his end goal? What is he trying to tell us? That is so important, and Oda does such a good job of it, man. I know it seems like I'm just, jacking this dude off, but it's so true. It's so true, especially for a shonen. Like shonen, they have different messages and everything. There are different themes kind of buried down in there. But one of the things Oda does that, is very remarkable is that he tells the story and he focuses on all these different characters. And he writes with such a slow pace that if you take the time to just unpack certain things, like looking at the panel placements, like looking at the facial expressions, looking at the words that are being used, he's conveying so much. Like, this is so good, man. This is so good. So I do want to close off with this. I do want to close off with this right here. When she had all of those memories, right? She's thinking back to, every time she met the kid that is shouting at her, and you start seeing her heart break. It's setting it up for a hell of a payoff when Luffy defeats Caesar. Because at the end of the day, Caesar is the one who's behind all of this. And that's so beautiful that Oda is even going this route. That is so beautiful. That is a nice touch. I mean, I'm used to Luffy coming in and, kicking people's asses and taking names. I'm used to that. But at the same time, like, holy shit. He's building up for a great payoff, man. So I want to ask you guys, right? So for my chapter question, I want to ask you, how do you feel Oda is capturing the essence of children in this arc? How well do you think he's writing these kids? Because I can say this from like the time that I've read, and I can say this from being an editorial assistant for a while, that's something that a lot of authors struggle with. Like, the younger the author, the easier it is. But the older you get, unless you have kids, it's really, really tough to write from a child's perspective. And I feel like Oda does a good job. I feel like there's a little bit where he misses, but for the most part, I feel like he's nailing it. And that's probably the one thing that impresses me because even when we got the flashback with Sabo and Luffy and Ace, even when we got that flashback, Oda captured what it meant to be a child very easily. When you go back to Syrup Village, I think with Onion and Pepper and whatever the other kid was, I guess his name was Salt because of the name and puns and everything. I can't remember the third kid's name, but when they were doing the Usopp Pirates and everything, Oda captured children very well. And the fact that it's been so many years since Syrup Village, which is, I think Syrup Village was chapter 12, 13, somewhere around there. Like the fact that Oda is able to keep it up 600 plus chapters after the fact, that is so telling about the guy's talent. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. But as always, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching until the end of the video, guys. Have an incredible day.